The Glass Garden of Azur. On the planet Nivara, two pale moons hung like watchful coins over a city carved from living basalt and biocrystal. In the heart of the capital stood Azur Palace, an architecture of grown stone and humming memory walls that remembered every footstep. In a courtyard of luminous flora and glass fountains, Princess Aurea of House Vale moved like a contained storm. Her skin was the deep green of old forests. Her hair, braided with threads that glowed faintly, fell like liquid jade. Pride sat in the set of her shoulders. A dangerous tenderness lived behind her eyes. Aurea carried a bloodline as rare as a comet, the Sylith strain, a living current within the veins of her people capable of mending flesh, awakening latent strengths, and, old whispers warned, knitting minds across impossible divides. It was a power guarded by law and fear. Near a serpent-shaped fountain sat a stranger, Tomas, envoy and former soldier, whose arrival weeks before had been meant to keep fragile peace after raids in the outer belts. He looked like someone who'd learned more from books than battle, lean and unintimidating, with sun-worn skin and storm-gray eyes. A raid changed everything. When fanatics stormed the palace by night, a plasma arc found a path toward Aurea. Tomas flung himself between blade and princess and took the blow meant for her chest. The medics fought for his pulse. It faltered, then faded. Aurea did what the edicts forbade. In a windowless infirmary, she cut her palm and let her iridescent vitae drip into Tomas's mouth. He clutched the cloth like a lifeline. He lived. Something else began to live in him. The threshold of feeling. Days later, Tomas lay in a recovery room lit by orchids that glowed like tiny moons. The goblet on his bedside held a viscous green sheen. His memory was scattered, a warmth spreading from chest to limbs, a language that wasn't language slipping into his thoughts, and dreams that smelled of stardust, of flying on light, and hearing the slow breathing of planets. Drawn by some hunger, he reached for the goblet. Aurea burst in, barefoot on cold stone, robes flaring behind her. "Stop," she said, breath sharp. "That was for dire need." Her voice broke at the edges, each word a duel between law and fear. He drank anyway. The first taste did not simply revive him, it rearranged his senses. Colors gained texture, whispers carried meaning, a new current thrummed beneath his skin like a second heart. "It tastes like home," he whispered, bewildered. Aurea's horror dissolved into fury, then into the steady command of a princess. The palace bell began to toll, a low, resonant clang, and red lenses slid into the walls. The outer sanctums had been breached by separatists who thought purity was a right and alliance a betrayal. The bond awakens. As they ran, Tomas discovered that the transfusion had done something irreversible. Pain became instructive rather than crippling. Weakness bent into a strange clarity. When Aurea panicked, a spike of cold tore through him, not his feeling but hers, and he reacted before she spoke. He moved with uncanny timing, guided by impressions that felt like someone else's instincts folding into his own. In the throne hall, a fanatical war chief called Shard aimed a sonic disruptor at the kneeling High Chancellor. The palace fell into chaos. Shard's weapon shattered shields and clattered teeth. Tomas lunged, less with practiced violence than with preternatural precision, and turned the disruptor's blast into nothing more than wasted sound by using its rhythm against it. He stabbed through armored joints with a knife that hummed when his pulse aligned with Aurea's. The princess, drained and chanting in an old, not-quite language, wove tendrils of energy that rose from the floor. The vines caught attackers, but she faltered and began to fade. Tomas caught her. Where their palms met, warmth leapt. A current completed itself, and both drew fresh strength. Shard saw the faint green light crawling through Tomas's veins and panicked. "Kill the hybrid," he roared. They fought through the ruins. Aurea's spells and Tomas's impossible intuition, her blood echoing in his flesh, made them more than companions, a single, emergent force. Aftermath and a quiet promise. When the barrage slowed, the palace lay broken but standing. In the cratered hush, Aurea addressed the hall with a voice upgraded from private fury to royal decree. This palace stands. I choose who stands with me. Later, in a moonlit garden where blossoms breathed soft light, Aurea handed Tomas a bitter tea and let her hand brush his. They'll demand answers, she said. He smiled with a grin that had always belonged to the hopeful. I'll tell them the truth. I drank because I was dying. I stayed because I wanted to live beside you. She laughed, a clear, reluctant sound, and they sat shoulder to shoulder as twin moons rolled overhead. They did not speak of rituals or exile. They spoke quietly of simple things until a new pattern of life began to form. Tomas training with the palace guards not to replace them but to teach and to learn. Aurea visiting the infirmary for reasons that had nothing to do with duty. Children stole glances at the green-blooded man who could coax a wilted vine into bloom with a touch. The court softened. Hope smelled like solder and sun-warmed stone. The shadow twin and corporate greed. Peace never sleeps long. Rumors rose from the desert. A faction of purists believed the Sylith must remain unmingled. One night, a dart with a venom of black glass pierced Tomas's arm. He blacked out and awoke chained beneath a desert ruin, face to face with a cloaked fanatic who proposed a cure more gruesome than execution. Either drink the princess until she spent herself into dust, or kill him to sever the bond. Aurea gathered a small, loyal rescue party, including her younger brother Kalen, healed and humbled. They rode across cracking dunes to a ruined temple hewn from dark glass, where Kalen was suspended in a cage of living thorn. Waiting for them was not only a zealot but a woman who could have been Aurea's mirror soul, Nyx, a sister sacrificed to silence that once-born twin. Nyx's skin matched Aurea's. Her hair flowed like a shadow of jade, but her eyes were empty, and her smile had a blade in it. The vein of tragedy ran visible. Nyx had been kept alive in stasis and fed stolen life force for centuries, turned into the embodiment of wrath. Aurea tried tenderness amid battle. Memory, shared in a keening exchange, touched Nyx's buried child self. Tomas threw himself in front of a killing blow aimed at Aurea, his blood mixed with Nyx's. The spill did not slaughter, but suddenly poured memory into her. Earth songs, boyhood laughter, the taste of rain. Nyx faltered. She lowered a hand that had never known a mother's warmth. The black orb that pulsed power into her trembled and fractured. Kalen tumbled free from his thorn cage. Drones and the corporate hand. Their relief was short. Sleek drones descended, not foreign governments, but machines stamped with a corporate sigil, Solara Dynamics. The raids, they discovered, were not about ideology alone. Solara had been seeking Sylith for decades, using sects and separatists as proxies to harvest life currents and engineer a stable hybrid source. The corporation wanted the conflation of Tomas and Aurea, a living conduit for their labs. They would dissect, replicate, and industrialize the living flame. The desert erupted into a fight where spellcraft braided with hacked weaponry. Nyx and Aurea fought side by side. Tomas, battered but lucid, coordinated sabotage, and improvised strikes that severed drone nets. In a final scramble, Tomas confronted the corporate commander, a visor-masked man who ordered their capture. Tomas shattered his neural link with a pulse stolen from a disruptor, and the commander collapsed. The drones retreated. The incursion had failed for now, but Solara had seen proof. The company would calculate and return. A new covenant. Back at Azure, the Empress, a woman crowned in braided vines and weathered like riverstone, listened. Instead of condemnation, she did something unexpected. She extended an alliance to Earth, not to its governments but to its people, its scientists, its critics. Tomas was not simply forgiven. He was named Shield of the Twin Queens, a living symbol of union and the deterrent to future corporate plunder. Nyx, freed from the Black Orb's domination and reborn by shared memory, refused to return to the temple. She became protector and educator, the keeper of scarred children and ex-lab technicians seeking redemption. Tomas and Aurea's union, no longer secret or shamed, became a public covenant. A neutral sanctuary was founded in Orbit, a place of study and shelter, where Sylith and other biocurrents were taught ethical language, not instruments of profit. Legacy. Years unfolded like a slow bloom. Aurea carried twins whose small chests vibrated with Sylith and human rhythm. Tomas taught them stories of oceans and wind. The twins grew in a world where old fears still whispered at the edges, but where classrooms and gardens answered with patient hands. Solara dynamics did not vanish. Investigations and whistleblowers revealed a lattice of secret labs. International outrage and coordinated sanctions crippled their reach, but rumor remained of deep-freeze vaults on distant moons. The threat became a round of vigilance rather than a single catastrophe. Tomas aged, silvering at the temples, but he never stopped being the bridge. Nyx found purpose among children. Kalen served as emissary to the ring worlds. The sanctuary's crystal dome sheltered a school where 3 languages were spoken, spells and circuitry taught side by side. When Tomas's last breath came, he held Aurea's hand and smiled. "Worth it," he said, and she replied with tears and the quiet certainty of a lifetime. The dynasty of their choices lived on in grandchildren who sang to storms and in an academy that mended more than flesh. Notes on changes and why this is fresh. New names and places: Nivara, world; Azur Palace, Aurea, princess; Tomas, human; Nyx, sister; Solara Dynamics, corporation; Sylith, life essence. All altered to reduce reuse overlap. Altered plot mechanics. The mechanics of how the bond affects senses, memory spillover, and the corporate motive were rephrased and reframed. The corporate antagonist is now Solara Dynamics rather than a previously named company, and their motives and methods are different in detail. Different character arcs. Nyx's awakening and empathy arc is emphasized to avoid cliché mirror twin tropes. Likewise, the political resolution stresses community building and ethical science rather than a single legal judgment. Tone and language. Sentence structure, imagery, and dialogue are rewritten throughout to produce an original voice and cinematic pacing. New scenes and beats. Added clearer rescue sequences, the corporate drone assault, and the foundation of an orbital sanctuary to create distinct structural shifts.